Zach from Gravel by California, back at the San Fernando Brewery as we're ready to take another send it up to Gold Creek. Now, last year we held this ride and it was our first since the pandemic, and it was a golden route, especially with that descent. Unfortunately, about a month after we held that ride, the people that were leasing the land for the beekeepers totally tore up the road. But we've had an amazing amount of rainfall that's wreaked havoc on our previous send-its, but at the same time seems to have softened the road back. How close? We'll have to see how much it's changed, but more importantly, how it's changed us. Let's roll. Our route followed our setup from the previous year, covering 31 miles, which you can find more info about under our gravel guides. We rolled out of San Fernando Park with another big crew on hand as we meandered through the Pacoima and Lakeview Terrace neighborhoods, showing that every lane is a bike lane, but it felt like we were entering bicycle land, turning onto quaint Little Tujunga Canyon, where we could really spread our wings and put down some watts if you chose. As the first core of this ride is really peaceful, gaining a surprising 700 feet in the first 8 miles, right before our turnoff to Gold Creek. So, starts pretty flat until we hit Gold Creek. A little punchy at the start, and people can get their feet wet. See the smiles still stay. The beginning of Gold Creek has a punchy start, teetering into the double digits, which you might remember this effort for more than these views. But soon, you're closed in, but with no choice than to shoot through this water crossing. And since they're so rare year-round, of course I'm going to show you both. You don't have to be much of a route master to figure out the turn onto dirt. But if you had an aversion to double-digit grades from before, you can see how this affliction treats you now on dirt. As you're a bit surprised, this jaunt is only a half mile of this, because being stuck in grinding mode helps skew the numbers. But everyone properly pause at the top of this peak, because it's not okay to turn onto Gold Creek, as the road is briefly private enclosed, forcing us into Boulder Canyon, which is an outlier on this route, being the only portion of single track that trends in the downhill direction. And while this sector is short-lived, it does require a little technical know-how, which has a payoff, if only minor. But as you can tell, my rear camera got foggy from one of the water crossings, which obviously would be no longer of a problem, except, yeah. Fun little bit of single track here. Some people forget there's a little hike bike in. Not that painful. From here, you get teased by these momentary declines, which goes against the reality that you need to go up. So yeah, enjoy it while it comes. Because the truth is, it's a lot more like this, which is only a light grade for about as long as a typical top 40 song. And you know you've hit the top if you can find the lurker taking photographs from his favorite spot, as people would not be as jubilant from this point on. This 2 mile climb is definitely the toughest of the day. A lot of climbing and double digits. People won't like me after this. Now, Gravel by California takes no responsibility for the side effects of this climb. With an ascent of 1.5 miles, averaging over 11% that looms, which really stretched out this group by natural causes, and how people would react, results may vary. Let's say some were happy to make it all the way upright, but Was there a payoff for reaching the top of this segment?
Yeah, more climbing. It's only about a mile and a half. Might be painful for most times, but after what we just did, I think we feel heartbeats again.
Right about now, 7.5% was looking pretty good. Not to mention some of these views, thank you very much, elevation. And one of the things that's hard to fathom is we're only 5 miles away from the urban elements, as you really have to look beyond to have any idea, but there are gravel realities like avoiding cracks. As this mile and a half peeled off quickly, ready for a little bit of a reprieve before one final huff, where the group wasn't going to miss this landmark, reaching the peak of Gold Creek with everyone itching for the next step.
Well, we made it to the cistern. I think we're all mostly accounted for. Payoff, 5 mile descent. It's gonna be a little choppy at the start, a little questionable from that point on. But once again, the views out here, oh, everyone will forget about what we just did.
The big question was what type of condition Gold Creek would be in. And when we scouted the route a couple of weeks ago, it improved to about 75% where it was last year thanks to the rains, and confirmation that the views were still pretty epic too. But back to reality, one thing's for certain. Downhills are downhills because of gravity. And while it was a bit choppier than my last excursion, more knowledge dropped. That's why wheels are round. Maybe you figured out that the front camera started cooperating, as some technical difficulties still hit as we started our return on Big Tujunga. But I think there's a lot of interesting visuals from this perspective, especially when the ride started getting spicy, with everyone jockeying for position like a peloton as another fun byproduct of gravel bikes. But the jets began to cool, moving back off-road for one of our staples on our valley rides, dropping down through a 1.5 mile shortcut through the Tujunga Wash, which wakes up a different skill set, waddling us through a particular level of sandiness that you just hope the rider in front is plowing you through the right direction. Despite rains adjusting our pathway through, I'm fairly confident the whole group made it through, or we'll fish them out during the next ride. But it's hard to imagine there was 7 miles left because they peel off pretty quickly, heading back to the San Fernando brewery that was set up for gravel riders and Troy, as well as having Papa Joe's food truck pull up, while we create a log jam for beer tabs, discussing our wounds, and capping off another Send It.
Like Haircut 100 would say, another fantastic day. You know, it's interesting. You don't want to repeat the rides, but sometimes the rides turn out totally different depending on conditions. Yeah, it was a little bit more sandy, a little more technical, but yeah, I think I kept everyone on their toes. And I still have mine. Anyways, if you want to support GBC, go hit the subscribe button or go to our shop or into Patreon or sign up for our newsletter so we can bring you more. Stay in the dirt.